Greetings and hello, I'm Gerd Leonhard, Futurist. I'm here in beautiful Cape Town, South Africa with my good friend and fellow futurist, Anton Musgrave. And Anton and me have worked together for quite some time on helping clients to understand the future, to see the signals, to hear the signals, and then to react, to rebuild their businesses, to do different things. That has been done with governments, with NGOs, with organizations, and we've been working on this roughly, Anton for 32 years and me for 15 years. And recently we started thinking about, what does the world look like by 2030? And how can we get our clients to think about at least the next 7 years, right now being 2023. So we decided to do a series of things, conversations, and hopefully we'll be sharing some real nuggets with you on the world by 2030, and that is the theme of our conversation. It's going to be a wide-ranging conversation about all different topics, all different angles, and probably carved up in 12 to 15 episodes. Now I would like to introduce Anton Musgrave, and please tell us who you are and what you do.
Thanks very much, Gerd. Folks, great to meet you virtually here. My name is Anton Musgrave. I'm a founder of Future World International, which is a global business working with clients all around the world, helping them see and understand and capitalize on the future. I've worked across industries, in all geographies, from governments right down to NGOs, from the top of the Alps right down to southern tip of South America and many places in between. Good. Lots of fun stories we'll share, I'm sure.
And it's interesting to note that South Africa is kind of an epicenter of the future. One wouldn't suspect that, given that there are many challenges in South Africa, but the future is a big topic, as opposed to Switzerland, where I live, which the future is a topic, but in Switzerland we tend to be more careful about the future because we are generally averse to risk. And here it's like one can feel that the future is a big topic. There's a future university in Stellenbosch, right?
Correct.
The Cape Town University has also similar courses there. There are many people in my LinkedIn connection that are futurists in South Africa. And do you know why? Do you have any idea why that is the case?
I think that's a great question. We have such a tumultuous environment that we operate in, with many unexpected curveballs all the time. And so not only do leadership in this country really respond to the present very well, but they're constantly having to see, well, this is a real crisis, but what's coming and how do I remain optimistic about tomorrow's opportunities? Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, because otherwise we'd be consumed in the negativity of the moment. But our leadership really managed to focus also on the next thing that we need to get ready for before it arrives.
Do you think it has anything to do with the sort of Anglo-cultural approach on the future, South Africa being kind of Anglo, in tradition, of course, but transitioning to a different culture now. But if we're looking at America, UK, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, we have a view in the future that it can be made, that it can be created, that we can be entrepreneurial. When we go to Europe, heartland Europe, Germany, Switzerland, it's more like we're waiting for somebody else to make that future, right? We're not actively taking part in it. In fact, in Germany and Switzerland, in many ways, you could say the future is difficult because it's not perfect.
Yep,
right? So, and we can't make it perfect, so we're always like in the Wild West, which seems to be more of an Anglo tradition. You think that's part of the reason why in South Africa we have such a concentration of future discussion?
I think it's that indeed, but I think added to that is the notion that futurists is a process of engaging with the unknown, with the uncertain, with the messy. I mean, life is messy. And we've certainly experienced that our future lenses and future events become much more unpredictable than many other parts of the world. So the level of volatility in all dimensions in this country is significant. And I think that's why there's this openness to explore the unknown, the scary, the messy, perhaps more easily than in countries like Switzerland, where everything is relatively stable on a 100-year cycle.
Well, it's funny, I thought about this a lot because it feels to me like sometimes when there's more pain and more pressure points to do something,
correct,
then we're ready to look at the future. Like in Switzerland, where the pain is not thankfully not very high. You know, we're living a comfortable life. It's very exclusive. It makes us mentally a little bit more active.
Lethargic.
Yeah, and we're all like, you know, intellectually maybe a little bit more lazy in the sense of saying we're just going to jump on something new. But in America, of course, everybody wants to build the future. Everybody wants to make the future. Everybody wants to own the future.
Yep.
Right? And it seems like being more hungry to change things, and also for good reason when things aren't working, like energy system here in South Africa.
Precisely.
That you have to make changes and grab the future. It forces you to do something. I think that's part of the reason why we have this amazing activity of futurism here in South Africa.
But I think it's different here to America. America is like that because they want to grow, drive growth, Wall Street driven, etc.
Right.
Short-term focus, but capitalize on what's coming down the road. Here, I think there's a slight nuance to that, and that is the fact that unless we grapple with the future while we're solving today's problems, we don't know whether there will be one or not.
Right.
So it's almost more survival in a sense. You know, if you're going to survive next month, next quarter, next year, you'd better be ahead of it.
Well, it seems like there's more table stake here, so that we're, you know, the cards on the table, and basically you have to create the future to have one. While in Switzerland, for example, we're more like we want to keep the present so that we have a future.
Absolutely.
Right, and that is also it's a difficult trap, you know, a mind trap. I think in Europe that we have that. The past and the present makes the future, which is just simply not true anymore.
Yeah.
Because you have the past and the present, of course, implicating the future, but really the future is usually the flip side of what we have today. So, for example, in the car industry, you're not selling cars anymore, you're selling mobility. And the music industry doesn't sell records anymore, it sells clicks.
Yes.
So it's very hard to sort of extrapolate, and I found this one of my major challenges with clients, that they would like to continue into the future by just making things better, you know? And usually the future isn't like this.
I think for us, Gerd, it's very simple. The present is really not good enough. Right. Whether it's politically, structurally, in terms of country infrastructure, etc., not good enough. And it's not going to last very long. So there's this burning ambition to create something different and better and new. And so to do that, we can't get stuck in the present trying to extrapolate from here, trying to protect and maintain the present, because that's simply not going to work.
I'm always thinking about this pain or love thing that I learned from somebody, I think it was Kevin Kelly, who said, how do people really change? You know, it's pain and love.
Yeah, well, we certainly have our fair degree of
and I was going to say, you know, there's a lot of pain in South Africa. There's also a lot of love for other things, right? But things change when you have pain, because then you're ready to say, okay, it's just getting too much. I want to change something.
Yeah.
And American model is the opposite, which is they also have pain, of course, but it's falling in love with an idea. So here's an American who thinks of, you know, Elon Musk thinks of going to space. Everybody should go to space, right? Or leave Earth because it's too dirty. So he goes up there and he brings it, and that's kind of falling in love with an idea. And I think this is really something that clients need to learn. We don't want to have too much pain because it makes you obviously not very positive, but falling in love with new ideas, you know, that's something I think we all need to learn a lot more of.
And I think it's that raw energy that we see on this continent. You know, you see so many stories of desperately challenged people coming up with incredibly innovative ideas, clawing their way out. It's a bit like India. You know, I once described India as the world of the stumbling elephant and a billion squirrels. They're all out there trying to survive and trying to get through tomorrow and make tomorrow better than today. And I think this continent embodies that spirit a lot as well.
Yeah, it's one of those bottom lines. You know, I think Peter Drucker said something very similar. I always say culture eats technology for breakfast. So success really is based not on technology, because that's a tool that we use. And lots of countries have great technology, but not making good use of it, right? Or vice versa, of course. But actually having culture that is open to change and open to innovation and open to actually pioneering activities, which seems something, for example, in Europe that we're lacking sometimes. We don't have the culture of innovation in the same way. It's less table stakes.
But it's born of necessity, right?
Yeah.
So your level of necessity in Europe is limited because it's so jolly good. Well, in some respects. In other respects, it's also becoming quite scary. But I think here that level of necessity is so elevated, and that's what triggers the ability to experiment with things that other people wouldn't think about.
Well, this, I think, for clients, is very important to realize, you know, that I'm speaking to a lot, is if you want to be more successful, you probably have to change your culture.
There's no debate about
right?
that.
And technology changes culture as well. But technology isn't something that is actively seeking to do anything. It will do whatever it does because it's mostly about efficiency, right? So if you want to change culture, you have to also create room for people to grow and to figure things out and to leave space for others and to make it more diverse and all of these things. And I can see every company that's doing this, like Mercedes-Benz is a great example, completely backwards focused, diesel engine focused company that's just reacting to things. And now the last 10 years, it's been like Mercedes-Benz is becoming a startup. It's getting young people in there. It's getting designers in there.
I mean, can you imagine the cultural disruption in those corridors? With 3 or 4 generations
of people. I was there.
You were there.
And the other thing is, of course, now you see Mercedes-Benz, for example, is the first company in the world that has gotten a license for level 3 self-driving cars in America, which even Tesla does not have in some of those states. Right? And it seeks to beat Tesla on its game of self-driving. And this has only been possible because of the culture change. And I think it's very, very hard to change established brands like this that have a certain culture. Like, the Patagonia culture has been established from the beginning.
Absolutely. I mean, driven by a strong founder with very specific views about what he felt was important.
Right.
And interesting, we'll loop back to this in one of our series, I know, and that is the role of being a true human and what that means. But how do you embody humanness in how you behave, how you operate in an organization? And look at the value that Patagonia has unlocked by allowing that to flourish, sometimes seemingly contradicting the rules of the capitalist markets, right, or the capital markets, which is all about profit-driven, quarteritis, margins, efficiency, etc. And they've said, let's stop the board meeting. The waves are good. Let's go and surf. And we'll come back and think differently when we get back afterwards.
I mean, when we talk about culture, I think closing the loop on the country thing, Switzerland versus South Africa, the cultural component of success of countries or nations or United Europe in the end will depend on that cultural change to happen. That we actually see things that are possible, that we don't always say no, yes, but, or that we say, yeah, it would have been nice, but I can't, and so on and so on. While here, it feels to me very much like people say, okay, it can be done, let's get to it.
I think that's true. Let's get to it. And in fact, an interesting observation is the society in South Africa, business leaders in South Africa right now are beginning to stand up and say, we need to do it because government's not going to do it. And we can't leave it to some other body, some other organization. So let's take charge of our own destination and go and create a destination we're excited about. And I think, just to wrap it up, for me, the challenge in this country, maybe the continent to some extent, perhaps less so in some countries, but right now here, we need a powerful dream that brings people of different cultures, backgrounds, histories, lived experiences together and aligns them around an exciting ambition. Whether it's, in organizations, we know how powerful that is, we'll talk about that. But as a nation, I now think we need that unified ambition for a destination that we're excited about. Because there are many barriers, many obstacles, and we're going to have to climb over and do some really hard things. But that's what's going to unite all of us from our different lived experience backgrounds to achieve that. And I think we can.
That brings us to the future narrative, which we're going to talk about in one of the next episodes.
Exactly.
Why it's so important to have a narrative about the future.
Yep.